Mastering client onboarding is probably one of the most important things you can do as an agency. So imagine this, you just signed on a new client. They're the largest client you've ever signed on. They're paying you 6 figures and you fumble the onboarding. They are most likely gonna cancel, be pissed, try to get a refund, talk about breach of contract. Let's talk about how you can systemize and automate your client onboarding so they have the best experience every single time. My name is Scott Bartnick. I'm the co-founder of Otter PR, and we can onboard upwards of 50 clients in a month. And we do this through systems and automation. Start off at the very simple thing. You got to talk about when your client onboarding journey. For us, it really starts when the client makes their first payment. So once they make their first payment, they go into our world, our system. They leave the salesperson's kind of main responsibility and they go into more of that operations responsibility. So let's jump in. The first thing we're gonna do is go in. Once they make their first payment, they're basically going to a landing page. The landing page is gonna thank them for their payment. It's gonna introduce them into the next steps, and it's gonna have them fill out their basic information, their email, their job title, their phone number, basic about what the campaign goals are. We keep this down to 5 questions. And the reason why is we don't want that to take a whole bunch of time. We want them to fill it in and give us as much information as possible so we can do research and have a really smooth onboarding call. But we also don't want this to delay them to start. So when we started, it was 25 questions and people would just literally never do it. We would never start those campaigns. The next piece of that is figuring out how to integrate some sort of contract. It's very critical that you either get the contract signed before they make their payment or before you start working to protect your business. I think that's one critical thing that people overlook. It is not a standard part of what you would think an onboarding process looks like. So once they make their payment, the next step is that onboarding form for us, like I said, and we have to make sure that people remember to do that. So we've made a whole bunch of automations. So they're gonna check out. We typically use WooCommerce, which is a WordPress platform for checkout. And then we use Zapier or different automations to basically tag them in our CRM. So we use ActiveCampaign for that. I'm gonna show you just the high level. This is a quick funnel of what we're doing to introduce people to Otter PR, welcome them, but then also remind them of how important it is to do their onboarding form. So at our company, we're not allowed to start work until we have their onboarding because it's just part of our standard process. It gives the team all the information they need. Once they do the onboarding, we have a goal set up in our CRM, basically saying onboarding form done, and it'll take them out of that and move them into the next part of our automation. So the next part of our automation, once they've completed this form, is to jump right in to basically that welcome series. So we combine our welcome series and our feedback series. So as soon as they do that, they're gonna get an email from an executive introducing themselves, talking about what the next steps look like, if there's gonna be a delay to get them on a call. All of that is built into that. So we usually get people on calls within 48 hours. We explain that, we explain what the first call is like in a video, and we share them as much information as we can so they go in there knowing what to expect and kind of really help with clarity. Now through this automation, we also bring in sharing their phone number. So the client has ways to communicate with us outside of their salesperson and email. They also build in feedback. So one of the most important things is, this kind of jumping ahead, but when you bring in a new client, that first month is so critical. We talk about this all the time, is speed to win. If you look at Amazon, one of their biggest successes is really not having products, because any store had products. It was how quickly you get them from order to delivered and have exactly what you wanted and how much time you were saving without having to wait weeks or months. And so it's the same thing when it comes to service-based businesses, is how quickly can we have success and how quickly can we have a win? And for us, even a simple win of having a good onboarding call, that's a win. Building out a strategy plan, that's a win. Things like that. And then of course, actually getting physical wins. But if it takes 4 weeks to onboard someone, you're not gonna have a win week 1. And our company basically requires a win as soon as possible. We try to get a win within 2 to 3 days. So we move extremely fast, and to do that organically, to do pitching, it's very hard. So we have to build out this robust process. But here's kind of our onboarding. I'm not gonna show you guys the actual emails, but it's just the different steps of how to walk them through that and get that feedback as we're going. As soon as they complete their payment, the information is going to go into our project management software. We use Zapier to take that payment and put it in here. Fully automated. Zapier is a really great tool. It brings them in, it puts them into our project management software. Now, once they're in the project management software, we use Asana. They're basically going into a client management board. And so this board has different steps. We have a section at the very top For issues, usually there's no big issues, but sometimes that could be as simple as a billing issue. So let's say their credit card, they need to change their credit card number because they got stolen or something. Basically, this board is for our executives to see all client activities at a high level and see where they are. So we have our retainer clients, we have accounts that haven't been paid yet, say they signed the contracts and they're ready to go, but they have a future start date, or we're just waiting on a wire or ACH. They go there so that we know that basically who owns this. So sales still owns this, and that's where they're sitting until they make their payment, do their onboarding form. The next step for us is that onboarding form. Like I mentioned, we combine that with our contract. So basically what I'm saying is their contract and onboarding needs to be done before sales is completely passing that off. And for us, our sales never really completely passes that off. What they do is their account executives and account managers, so they are helping throughout that entire process. They're always checking with that client, really worried about that consistent relationship. That's so critical to us, is building those long-term relationships. But anyways, so they're gonna go in here once, and I did a sample one. This is kind of what a project looks like for me. So once they have the onboarding form done, this is what the salesperson would do, is they would just literally drag and drop this to the next step. So pending start date, that's if they're starting in the future. We have a lot of clients will start a month or two ahead of time or before they're actually gonna start, just for whatever reason. So they would sit there, but once they go into assigned to a publicist, assigned to the team, that's where our COO actually goes in and assigns that team. We do a whole bunch of different things in the background to make sure that we have the right team. We're looking at what the client is, who their best fit is, but that team is critical. But the reason why we track this in a big scale board is because we're doing a handoff. So this is literally being handed off from sales to a different person, different department. And anytime you physically do a handoff, there's an opportunity to drop information, drop details. And so it's really important that we can visually look at this and say, there's 10 people stuck in sales, what's going on? Are they not moving them over? Are they not doing their onboarding? Do we have a communication issue? Does someone need to get involved and help? And we audit this consistently. So this really, the goal is to move things through really quickly. So a lot of this will happen, within a couple hours of those sales. A lot of times we'll get people into their first call all same day. So the next thing here is their first strategy call. So once they get assigned, they get moved here. The team knows that they've been assigned and that they're supposed to go ahead and have that strategy call with their client. Now this is where basically we bring in a bigger project. So if I come here and open this up, each client gets their own board. So this basically is a board to their project management. So instead of treating them like a task, we go in and we kind of create a board. But first I want to show you some things in here. So we show details and tags, so that way we know about, is there any issues? Are they on track, behind schedule? So we track all of that, what package they are, who the salesperson was, kind of where they purchased. This just helps us track down the orders if we ever need to. And there's more information in here, and that product that I talked about, and we're gonna jump to that next, and that's the big scale project of everything going on. Usually we have, company name up here, so we'll structure it a little differently depending on where the clients are coming from, but our main contact's name, company name, email, and then they get a specific order number. For us, that's their parent order, their original order, and that becomes basically their client number. So we can go back and reference different things, and this all integrates with ActiveCampaign, which is our CRM as well. Now, once we're in here, I can go ahead and easily click on the big project here, and there can be tasks involved below as well. But when we come into the project, this is the same concept here. So I'll go ahead and shrink this. Same concept, and it just outlines what those steps are in more detail for that individual client. So if you think about it, this main board for us is, think about supervisors, managers. For us, we have our COO who oversees this, we have our PR manager who oversees this, and then we have account strategist who oversees this. But then our team that's actually doing a lot of the execution and less of the management are our publicists. And so our publicists do a lot in here and more of our account strategists. So they're working in this dashboard and looking at any kind of specific packages, any guarantees, any offers that were given. So that goes into here, and then we just basically step through the process. So we're mainly talking about the onboarding process here. So I'll kind of open this up so you guys can see. I did redact and remove some of our steps because obviously they're confidential. But of course, this is just things that I already talked about. Is our onboarding form is complete, clients added to the product management software, everything's set up correctly. So we have specific things where we put in their bio and stuff like that. That's all set up correctly. Client information. Before they get on that actual strategy call, which I'm going to show you back in the main board in a second, we do, and that's that first call, we have a pre-call checklist. So basically they're looking at the onboarding form. We record our sales call. So they're listening to the sales call. They're doing research on the company. They're doing competitor research. If they were in the news, what those last couple articles were about, trying to learn the voice and do as much as possible ahead of time. So when they get on that call, they're having their first win. They're there to impress the client and they're there to listen, learn what the expectations are, and then basically start strategizing right away. Because like I said, for us, and I think for most clients and companies, speed to win is so critical. So making sure that everything goes smoothly and that we're able to start as soon as possible. They have a post-call checklist, so all the steps they need to go through after that call, where they put all the information, where they're filling things in. For us, a big piece of that, and if you're running a service, whether it be social media or other services, that strategy plan is so critical. Is having them agree to the strategy. We actually make them sign off the strategy plan. We let them know, hey, this isn't a contract, but this is the strategy that we outlined with the information you gave us. We want to make sure that you agree this is the correct strategy moving forward. If it's not, please let us know and we'll modify it until we have the right strategy so we don't waste time. This is also super critical for agency owners and businesses, because what it does is it reduces creep of scope. And so basically we're outlining exactly what we're working on. We preset those expectations and then we go execute on that. Basically from there, this is just us running our service, doing pitches. We have different kind of information here, whether it's our earned media, our partner press releases. So usually for partners, it's kind of like a press release or something like that. We view that as different because we have that relationship, and a press release to us isn't really a success. It's part of the business and part of the job, but we're not calling that a big success just because we can write it and publish it. We have other kind of critical pieces in our onboarding process going through here, miscellaneous information. But anyways, this is how we view the entire project. The cool thing, if you're not familiar with Asana, is you can look at different types of screens, overview, boards, and you can see where things need to be done. You also have a really cool Gantt chart and calendar all built in. So the nice thing about a calendar is if you have, for us, we're doing pitches on specific days and scheduling out pitches ahead of time. So that's all visible right here when it's all filled out properly. Now let's jump back into the main piece of this, which is that kind of big onboarding. So typically what happens is they do that strategy call. I showed you all the pieces in there ahead of time, but they're doing the strategy call. Once they do the strategy call, they're responsible for completing basically that strategy. So what we're doing the first 90, 60, 30 days, basically what that strategy looks like in the short term. Typically we're planning out almost an entire year for our clients, but we really focus on how quickly can we get them success. So that's why we emphasize the beginning of it and really talk about how all those pieces are gonna come together. Then we're gonna do, our first pitch and so on. So now this is more into our specific service and just tracking once they get through their first success. So I mentioned how important that first success is. First pitch, then first success. So we move them through and then they just go to active client, and it really doesn't get managed in this board unless it's coming to overall viewing where people are and the billing part of it. So I also put in, you'll see that this is assigned to me. I'm the account strategist on here, basically, and then I have this date. Product date is when they signed up with us, and then what they're paid to is how we use that. So this person's paid through November 3rd, and then after November 3rd, the whole product will turn red. We do automatic payments, but the nice thing is if it's past due, we can very clearly see that, and we'll check, and our billing admin will go through, and if they did pay on time, we'll extend it to the new date, and if they haven't paid it, it's another reminder for the team of, let's make sure they get the payment before we move on to the next part. There's a lot of information in here, but out of tools, we use a lot of tools. I would recommend kind of a similar tool set to this. You could also bring in, so for that form I didn't mention, we use Gravity Forms. There's a whole bunch of other tools. Go High Level is a really great one. Even with Go High Level, I would still use a project management software like Asana, just because of how robust it is and everything you can track in there. If you guys like content like this and want to learn more about scaling your businesses, please subscribe and give me a comment and some video ideas. I appreciate it.